Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Before we call this meeting to order of the Pembroke Upper Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment Board, I'd like to acknowledge that as we gather today, we respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council, the community, and this PSB that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Before we call this meeting to order of the Pembroke Upper Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment Board, I'd like to acknowledge that as we gather today, we respectfully. No issue. Oh, over time we get used to it. Yes. Yes, so we reside on the Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And it is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So this afternoon, if I can call this meeting to order, if we can take things a little bit out of order, as I understand it, the inspector will be a few moments later. So perhaps if we can just bounce around with the agenda a little bit and keep it fluid, but we'll get everything done this afternoon with the indulgence of this board. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. I have Mike, seconded by Des. Those in favor? It is carried. So the minutes of May 8th, 2024 were circulated as part of your package. I'm sure everyone's had an opportunity to peruse them. I'd entertain a motion for their approval, and I have Des, seconded by Christine. Those in favor? And that is carried. I'm wondering, seeing as we have representation, if we can change things up. We have representation here in terms of a presentation from Crime Stoppers. So if it pleases the board, we could do that, and then it allows them to carry on with their activities for the day. Good. Okay. So welcome. As I said, we have a presentation from Crime Stoppers, and so welcome to our PSB, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bennett Blackwell. I'm the president and chair of Crime Stoppers Board for Pembroke and Renfrew County, and I'm joined by Provincial Constable Sean Peaver, who is our police coordinator for the Crime Stoppers Board. I took over as the chair and president in the spring, around April, and just started reviewing sort of the networking that Crime Stoppers had in place, and looked at opportunities for where Crime Stoppers can work with other community organizations to build the Crime Stoppers program and overall increase community safety across Renfrew County and Pembroke, in the city of Pembroke. So we asked to be here today just to kind of give an overview of the Crime Stoppers program for those who might not be familiar with it, and for those who may have an interest in participating, and hopefully there's an opportunity for some collaboration with the Police Services Board on future initiatives. So for those who are unfamiliar with the Crime Stoppers program, Crime Stoppers is it's an anonymous tip line, essentially. Just about every municipality in the province, in the country, and even internationally has a Crime Stoppers program. And so Crime Stoppers essentially provides an avenue for members of the public to provide information to the police, but while staying anonymous at the same time. So instead of contacting the police, you could contact Crime Stoppers either through the Crime Stoppers phone number or on the website. You stay anonymous. You get to provide that tip information about a crime that you know about, and that information makes its way to the police, where they can go ahead with their investigation, but you stay anonymous. You, as the tipster, don't have to appear in court or testify, and so it protects the tipster in that sense. We do offer cash rewards for information that leads to an arrest. Again, we protect the anonymity, so it is a cash reward. When you submit a tip, you're given a unique PIN code sort of thing that allows you to either call back to the Crime Stoppers call center or log back into the website, where you'd be communicating to get more information about a reward or what have you, or if you had more information to add to your tip. So we have some statistics here that Sean can go over just to kind of speak to the success of the program.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bennett. So since the inception of the program in Renfrew County, these are Renfrew County numbers. As general, we don't specify by geographical area smaller than Renfrew County. So we're nearly at $700,000 in property recovered. It could be stolen property of any sort. Cash recovered is over 52,000. Drugs seized, just over $4 million in drugs seized, for a total of $4.8 million in drugs, cash, property received since the inception of the program, which I believe is in the
1989.
89, I think. So it does make a significant dent into illegal economies of property crimes and drug trade for sure. Sometimes I think we get information through Crime Stoppers that we might not get otherwise. People don't want to give their name. They don't want to have to testify in court for a number of reasons, reprisal, just inconvenience. Also, the up to a $2,000 cash reward is also an incentive for a number of people. So, and we're seeing a good number of tips coming in through the website, through our it's called P3 software is what we use, and basically you log into and like Bennett said, you leave information, and if they log back in, they can check to see if police have responded. We've left a message for them for follow-up or any further information, and make arrangements to pay a tip if there is an arrest or charge. There doesn't have to be a conviction. It's simply an arrest or a charge, and that's enough for them to be eligible for a reward. So the board, which is 15?
Yeah, about that.
Is 15. I think it was up to 15.
Yeah.
I think we have 12 right now. Board members, they decide, I bring the information to them with regards to successful tips and charges and, amount of drugs seized, property seized, cash. And then the board makes a decision within some guidelines of how much the tipster will receive. So the board makes those decisions. The board's responsible for like the promotion and the fundraising and the funding of Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is not funded by any provincial or any form of government. They're responsible. The board is responsible for the funding. So that's, you can go into maybe what the bills and the responsibilities in that.
For sure. So Crime Stoppers is not the police. We do work with Sean and we work with the OPP and other jurisdictions. We work with the police of that jurisdiction, but I'm a civilian. I have a regular everyday job and I volunteer my time to Crime Stoppers, as does every other board member. So it's up to us to go out and do some networking and approach businesses and try to get funding that way. In the past, we've done the cash calendars, golf tournaments. Before my time, I'm sure there were a lot more fundraising initiatives. After COVID, obviously, funding got a little bit harder to obtain. And so we are still working on some of that. But
with regards to cost, Crime Stoppers has an annual fee for the software that the program that we use to run, which is a few thousand in US dollars because it's a US based company that supplies the software for pretty much every Crime Stopper program in North America. At the detachment, we have a standalone phone line with obviously no call display or anything like that. There's a standalone internet line with a standalone Crime Stoppers computer. It's all very separate and segregated from anything so that it is independent of any police phone lines or networks, that sort of thing. So, and then also they have tips to pay out with regards to responsibilities for that. So there's different things that Crime Stoppers is responsible for with regards to annual and monthly bills.
That's right. Yeah, the National Anonymous Call Center and even just dues to Crime Stoppers, the provincial Crime Stoppers and national Crime Stoppers. But one of the things that we're working on right now is just an advertising campaign, promotion campaign. So I have a sign here that maybe you've seen these signs before. I think there's one across the street from Edwards Mazda that's kind of leaning over a little bit now. And these have been around for some years. We also have the Lock It and Lose It campaign signs that are around some of the parking areas downtown. And so one of the things we're working on right now is just refreshing some of our promotional materials and advertising materials. This sign's quite dated, scratched up, but it doesn't have our website on it. And we're finding that 80% roughly
and it's transitioning away from the telephone to, online, whether it's your computer or laptop, notebook, anything like that is very convenient and works very well. But we still do have a national anonymous call center situated in Ontario that takes the phone calls from the 1-800 number, and then they input that into the system where then we can see the tips, and then I forward the tips to the appropriate police agency that in that area of the tip.
So for us, promotion is huge. The ultimate goal is community safety, right? We want to get the tips so that the police can do their job and get the information that they need to be able to make the arrests and put a stop to the crime. So we're hoping that this is an introduction for us to the Police Services Board. We hope to have similar meetings with other police services boards and other municipalities within the county. And we're hoping that we can foster some collaboration to try and promote some of our mutual goals.
With new signs coming.
Yeah, so that's the new signs. We've ordered new signs that will have, they're a little updated. They do have the website on them and stuff like that. So we're hoping that maybe the city of Pembroke, the Police Services Board here, might be interested in procuring some of these signs with Crime Stoppers. And like I said, the same as we would do with other municipalities within the township. There's discussion to be had as far as where we think they should go, whether it's something we can also collaborate with the Community Watch program and have a Crime Stoppers sign in close relation to a neighborhood watch sign. Or I'm also in talks with the Pembroke Business Association to try and see if there's downtown businesses that maybe want signs for their parking lots or their storefronts and stuff like that. So we're still in kind of the beginning stages of rolling out this sort of promotion campaign, but we're grateful for the opportunity to be here and speak with you.
Thank you. Impressive statistics that you provided. So do you think, given that, and being on both sides, John, that people would feel more comfortable reporting tips to whatever, if they feel there was a crime committed, to Crime Stoppers as opposed to directly to the police?
I think it depends on the person, but I think the ones that come to Crime Stoppers, I think really do treasure that anonymity and not having to testify in court. That's the key draws. We do pay out tips, of course, but a number of people, I would say the majority of people that provide us with tips that are successful don't necessarily claim the money. They're doing it for the good of the community, and because it's right, it's the right thing to do. It's just that they're apprehensive about the court process or having to testify. And, we can still use that information, and it still can be valuable to our officers and detectives that are working on cases. And, sometimes the information comes out of the blue, and it's something where it can start an investigation. Sometimes the information comes, it's a piece of the puzzle that they're already building, but it all helps. And it's really important that we, have this, because it gives the people an outlet that are not maybe shy or apprehensive of giving a statement to police and being identified, because maybe it's someone that's close to them or that lives near them. Who knows what their reasoning is? But yeah, and I should also mention, I'm not an employee of Crime Stoppers. My work for Crime Stoppers as a police coordinator is just part of my duties as an OPP officer. It's almost like an in-kind donation from OPP to Crime Stoppers program that they have a police coordinator. So the information is all anonymous, and then I forward it to the correct location. It could be, a detachment in Renfrew or Arnprior. It also could be, we do see the vast majority of tips often do come or are concerning Pembroke, and Pembroke close in the area here. So, and also a tip with regards to drug activity in Petawawa, there's no borders, right? So if we're snuffing out drug trade anywhere in Renfrew County, it has an effect, I think, across the county, not just the drugs that we're seizing possibly in Renfrew or somewhere else, could be destined for Pembroke or vice versa. So it really has that, widespread effect right across the county of deterrence, and it certainly helps with the enforcement.
Wow. Yeah. I just learned a lot, in that very short presentation. Yeah, for all the reasons that Sean mentioned, yeah, I can see people feeling more comfortable calling Crime Stoppers, especially if it is something close to them. And, I'm wondering if the city or the other municipalities in the county couldn't start to educate their residents by including something as insert in the next tax bill circulation. I mean, I'm on the police services board, and I heard of Crime Stoppers, but I really wasn't sure exactly what that was. I thought maybe it was a leg of the police services, but yeah, so I would be interested in that. And I guess what else I wanted to know was if you gave a tip, so someone calls and says, I've noticed this happening all the time, or in regards, let's say, to that sad incident where that girl is still missing, the ongoing search. If someone thought they knew something but was afraid, because that's a dangerous situation, to call you. All over social media, you hear people saying, "Oh, I know this and I know that," but they don't know what to do about that information. So I think we need to get that out on social media too. I don't know, do you do any advertising on social media?
Yeah, so we do have, we're on, I think, Facebook, we're on Instagram. We are working on trying to get more social media advertisement out there. We do have a social media coordinator sort of thing that's a volunteer on the board, and they do have a full-time job. So it's hard for them to sort of dedicate as much time as we'd like to be able to get that promotional material out there.
If I could just follow up. When the announcement, when the OPP does news bulletins and they show up on social media, if it could be married, if it's a crime where they're trying to look for evidence, if it could be married with some kind of post about, if you have a tip and you're uncomfortable, marry it with the Crime Stoppers information.
I think you'll find that in most press releases that the OPP put out, Crime Stoppers is typically in the press release.
Okay.
If you have information on this, please call the Ontario Provincial Police or Crime Stoppers. I do agree, though, completely. It would be great to get more advertising, and our Facebook page certainly does repost anytime there is an ask for information from the police service.
I think it's the anonymity. I think that's the key, though, that we have to get out there.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference.
I agree. And if I may, from my experience since I took over as president and chair, I found the same thing. A lot of people have heard of Crime Stoppers. A lot of people have heard the buzzword, call Crime Stoppers. Crime costs you, but Crime Stoppers pays, that sort of thing. But a lot of people are not familiar with the sort of inner workings, how it works and how the program works, and the fact that you can stay anonymous and you can claim a reward and all those kinds of things. So that is all part of the advertising that we're trying to get out.
I think I can just add to that briefly, if you don't mind. So one of my other roles at the detachment is media relations officer. So I do issue media releases and on a regular basis. I'm sure the mayor sees them, and they go onto the police service board Facebook website regularly. So if any time that we're appealing for information on a crime that's unsolved, as a general practice, I put at the bottom, please call our detachment with our detachment numbers, but also if you wish to remain anonymous, please call Crime Stoppers or visit the website at www.valleytips.ca. And I can tell you, so I issue the release, and then because I have the Crime Stoppers role as well, the next day I could see a tip or two roll in on that, and then it's very rewarding. And then I pass that on to the investigators or the street crime unit, and then it doesn't happen quick like on TV, but often sometimes maybe a week later we have a result, and it's very rewarding. The issue is with Crime Stoppers, you're not going to see a media release from Crime Stoppers saying we solved this particular crime with a Crime Stoppers tip, because it could possibly endanger or identify the tipster if there's only maybe one or two people that know about it or could provide information. So I could tell you about a number of incidents this year that are fantastic. And I'm so proud of the officers and how the program worked to secure, drugs, stolen property, and all these other things. But we can't get into specifics. We give general numbers like year-end stats or cumulative stats, but we don't say this crime was solved with the assistance of a Crime Stoppers tip, just because we can't jeopardize that tipster, or, so you won't hear that, unfortunately, from us. We'd love to.
It's a difficult business model when you can't pat yourself on the back for the good work that you do.
It's a strange business model wherein you can't really celebrate your specific successes. You can only give like a general thing at the end of the year, but that's done to protect the tipster.
Other questions? So a few low-lying fruit that we can certainly do. I appreciate what Pat is saying, and certainly that's easy to do with the tax bill, because certainly I think the tax department's always looking for something to insert. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's news. In any event, in terms of the Police Services Board Facebook site, it's got a lot of traction since it's developed, and young lady at the back is the one posting things to it when Constable Peaver puts it forward. So even if we had something, and it may be just looking at your Facebook site and sharing it to that Facebook site, which would give it traction. Next one, community watch meeting. So we meet, as Constable Peaver would know, we generally meet spring and fall. We've been having extra meetings, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later in terms of Elizabeth Street, but that particular zone. But certainly if you're willing, we'd like to have you then at the community watch meetings, and then you can give the presentation to them, because the individuals that attend that are individuals that are engaged. We have 7 zones thus far and growing. So those individuals are engaged. They're not sitting back. They are the ones that are walking on their street. And if you're looking for individuals that are engaged, that will contact, on the website, Facebook, or whatever means, that's probably your low-lying fruit in terms of individuals that will actually engage. So if you're willing to do that, the next one would be in the fall. There's going to be 2, but the one on Elizabeth Street, perhaps it lends itself to the community watch. To the Crime Stoppers program. It's a good chunk of the program on that zone is a particular building, but there is the neighboring property owner. So that's in terms of some low-lying fruit that would assist in promoting your program, which promotes then what we're about and promotes it all around. So if you're game for that, we can certainly put you in touch then. And the last thing was in terms of signage, because I thought I read somewhere the question as to what you about the signage. So in those 7 zones, there are signs. Don't ask me how many signs are in each particular zone. The operations works together with the OPP to try and figure out logistics. But we have 7 zones, and you got to believe that there's at least 4 signs in each one. I know in some of the areas there's a further sign underneath it that talks about if there's video surveillance in that particular area, because not all areas, but some areas. And so certainly, I think this board would be open to discussing it, and then as well as the operations department that looks at it to see how much can a pole hold, how, does it impact the pole, and is it secure, and all that good stuff. Yeah. So certainly there's some action items that certainly we can work at. So as long as we have some contact information, because then we can loop you into the community watch meetings as well. So.
Well, thank you very much. We do very much appreciate that, and we look forward to being in touch. The last thing that we were hoping to liaise with the Police Services Board would be the potential for a Golden Helmets presentation demonstration in the Pembroke area. We had been working to try and bring the OPP Golden Helmets demonstration team to the city of Pembroke. And we were hoping that was potentially something that, if it were to occur, that Crime Stoppers could perhaps have a banner or a booth, donate volunteer time, or whatever would be requested from the board.
So that item is a little bit later on in the agenda, is the Golden Helmets item, but to be clear, so that at least that I'm clear, you're looking for participation in whatever that looks like.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We would hope there's a space for us to maybe have our banner, our booth, something like that. We could give out some promotional materials, and just another opportunity for us to network with the community and kind of just spread the message of Crime Stoppers and promote the program.
It should be noted, like I did see representation at the Pembroke Expo, and so you're certainly reaching out. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. Oh, Des? Yeah.
Last meeting, we talked about the Let's Remember Adam campaign and posting that on our board. Can we maybe get some of their information posted on the PMC board as well?
If it's the will of the board, I see no reason why it can't. We will get a report on what we did manage to get done in terms of that, but I don't see why not, as long as, so do you have something that, I guess it's programming in terms of our staff putting whatever up onto that? Talking about the electronic sign at the PMC is what Des is referring to.
So we've done similar with the community of Golden Lake and Pikwakanagan. They have a digital message board there, and they asked us to come to a community meeting not long ago, and we gave similar presentation, and they wanted some flyers and stuff like that, but we did give them our digital logo, and they put that on the board. They have an anonymous drug line of their own, but they also said you could call Crime Stoppers, and they put that on their digital message board. So that's certainly something that we're open to. Absolutely any way that we can work together to sort of get the program out there and make the community more aware that there are other options to share your information.
I think that's a good idea. In terms of the board, what's your thoughts on that? Heads up and down, or? So if you can liaison with our clerk, Victoria, in terms of whatever that looks like. I'm not the tech guy. So whatever that looks like, that we need to facilitate that.
I think that's great. It's a wonderful way to be partners in community safety and public safety. That's the goal of the OPP. Is public safety is, always our number one goal, and Crime Stoppers is an avenue to achieve that.
Any other, Pat?
I was just simply going to say that they could probably present that to at a city council meeting, maybe in September as well. I know this is being streamed now, though, so that's great. That's a great avenue. So anyone who is inclined to watch these will be watching. But certainly, if you don't, I will definitely at the next, counselor updates, I'll definitely be mentioning this. Thank you.
So thanks so much for coming this afternoon and educating us on.
Thanks very much
the program.
Thank you.
The inspectors here, did we want to then switch back up to wherever it is here? Anyways, the photo part, did we want to do that part, and then we can?
If that's okay with the board, the staff member that's taking the picture is she's on the way out.
Right on. With everyone's indulgence, if we can go back to then number 7, business arising out of the minutes. We already had a motion to approve the minutes. First up is Let's Remember Adam campaign. So did you wish to take it away, Victoria?
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to provide the board with an update on the Let's Remember Adam campaign on reviewing the minutes from May 8th. I realized there was some instructions to put the messaging for the campaign on the PMC electronic boards. That has since been done, and staff have also scheduled, it was done for the last week of June, so the last week of school, and then subsequently it will be played intermittently throughout the year when school starts, and then right through to June again. So we'll have that continuously every other month until June. So it's a constant reminder of the campaign and its wonderful mandate.
Good stuff. Next up, Pembroke Business Improvement Area Pumpkin Treats event. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier on, I met with PBIA manager Bethia Summers. We went over some of the things that happened last year. Last year's event had approximately 3,000 people attend. I received from the executive that there were 4 comments/complaints made to the PBIA executive. The general public saw it as a very well-run event. So out of 3,000 people and 4 comments, negative comments, that was pretty good. This year's event will be held October 26th, 2024 from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. That changes the times, Inspector, that I had mentioned to you earlier on. They changed it. The PBIA will be requesting the closure of parking on Main Street for the duration of the event. This is to help maintain visibility for those crossing Main Street at other than crosswalks or stoplights. The PBIA has also decided to forego closure of the Main Street this year. The PBIA recognizes the assistance of the OPP in the past years and has asked for additional auxiliary members to help patrol the street that day. There will be signs at each end of Main Street and at strategic locations reminding drivers to slow down for this busy event. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions, comments? Pat?
Yeah, so since it was me that brought up the concern, because I was down there with 4 littles the last couple of years, that's great. I think that at least will help. The parking along Main Street definitely is troublesome when you have little ones darting and parents are busy. And so I do appreciate that. And we'll see how this year goes. And we'll see how this year goes. And hopefully it'll be a lot better. Yeah. Yeah.
If you only have a year,
I know.
they're
Okay.
comfortable with it. They think they don't have to close the street, providing they have to come to, assume City Council asked for permission to eliminate the parking for the 2 hours. Am I correct that they have to ask council for permission to
Yes.
eliminate the parking?
That would make sense to me. And then depending on like a lot of these different things, it takes some planning in terms of coming to council soon enough, because we're meeting once more. We just met last night. We're meeting only once in August unless there's a special meeting required for whatever purpose. And so running out of dates between now and then.
I brought that up to them.
Great.
Good stuff. Madam Clerk, did you want to deal with 7C Street banner update?
Thank you, Chair. So I wanted to provide the board with an update on the banner, again, through reviewing the May 8th minutes and through talking with the previous clerk. There was a request for a banner. So I passed out a mock-up of the banner that was done with pedestrian safety as the focal point. It's ready to be made up and hung. I just wanted to ensure that the board was okay with it. I realized the name is... yes, they used a template, so the name has been corrected with the designer, and we would be reflecting the new Detachment board's name. It's a long one. It'll be fairly small on the banner. However, that's the proper branding moving forward. So unless there are any other recommended revisions, I'm happy to proceed in ordering and posting on our Main Street.
Thank you, Christine.
The name was my comment, but I do love this. I think it's, I think people will take notice and hopefully they'll amend their ways. Thank you.
Other comments? Because I like the banner. You're trying to strike that balance between getting a message across, but not being so busy that it's just a blur to people. So I think it strikes that balance. There's different items there that should get people thinking without so much that they're lost on what the sign's about. Pat?
Where are these signs going to be? Where?
So my understanding is this is a banner to replace I think it was the Lock It or Lose It one off the top of my head. And so usually the city of Pembroke through Madam Clerk's works with PBIA, and they have a schedule of everyone wanting their signs up. Algonquin College wants a banner up during different times and everyone else. So then usually staff work with staff to try and figure out when they can get it up there and it meets everyone's
So are we
needs.
only getting one banner? Are we going to get more than one banner?
From my reading of the minutes and directions, I had recollected only one banner unless the board so chooses more.
Yeah, because certainly the board can say what it wants. There is only 2 locations in the downtown that you can put up the banners. And last time I tried to put up a banner in the early days when I used to work a little closer with the former clerk about these issues, it was a long list to get your banner up there. But anyways, Christine. So if we're good with that one, the inspector has arrived. Welcome. And the next item up is the report for the latest quarter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. And I sincerely apologize for my tardiness. There was a rather urgent matter that required my attention at East Region headquarters, and I did try to get back as quickly as I possible, being mindful of our traffic laws. So good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege to present the second quarter report for 2024. Before we move ahead, though, I do want to take a moment to introduce the 2 interim operations managers. Sarah has been here for a meeting before, but Acting Staff Sergeant Chris Miller, who is supporting us for the next 6 months, based out of the Killaloe Detachment, but he will be reporting here to Upper Ottawa Valley for the next 6 months in his professional development. So never having sat at a police service board, detachment board meeting, this was an excellent opportunity for him to come and just kind of see how the workings are, see the magic that happens at the big table. So any correspondence that the board happens to see in the future from Chris Miller, that's who it is. So welcome, Chris. Jumping right into the actual report, starting with the summary, I'm pleased to say that the calls for service, the good, the bad, and fortunately no ugly. The numbers very, very similar to the previous year, which is both a good and a bad thing, that things are not escalating despite what some people may think about the community. It is quite the opposite, and the numbers reflect that. There has been a slight decrease in our violent crime stats for this quarter. I will draw the board's attention to right at the very top, murder first degree. That is not a result of an incident this year. That is, in fact, it is a stat counted towards this year, but this is, in fact, the incident from last year where the individual was arrested this year and charged during this quarter. If you recall of our horrific incident last year, that is how, that is not a new incident. That is just, it is being caught in the statistics now because he was arrested and charged this quarter. I am pleased to see that our assaults have decreased. They still compose the bulk assault level 1, which is typically our IPV, our domestic violence occurrences. That is decreasing, and I sincerely hope that trend continues. There was I'll say a significant increase in criminal harassment year to date, as well as in the second quarter, that we will continue to monitor going forward. Overall, slight decrease in the second quarter year to date with violent crime, which again, I'm glad to see that it's trending downwards, but until that is zero, that will not be a success. I did make a little note here on the, just because of the banner, moving on to property crimes. I did make a quick note just because we just mentioned the lock it or lose it. And I would draw out the board's attention on page 2 of 8, almost at the top, theft from motor vehicles. 12 reported last year, and we're only at 4 year to date. So I would dare say we're going to keep messaging that pretty hard in the community. That is a very easy way to reduce victimization for something as simple as, hey, lock your doors. Our fraud occurrences continue to permeate within the community. What we have done proactively is we have had our auxiliary sergeant attend 4 different senior homes to proactively target what we would refer to as our more vulnerable community members, our seniors, and explain to them the ease at which it is to fall for these frauds. My father himself got a phone call and, hey, there's a package at Canada Post and I don't remember ordering, but I was like, Dad, no, please don't. Like they are clever and they are fraudsters for a reason, because it works. And if they send these emails out to 1,000 people, somebody will likely respond, unfortunately. So the more we can get this message out, especially to our, again, what I refer to as our vulnerable community members, the better it will be. So that has taken place. We are still moving forward with, we have our current member who is in the office, who is dedicated full-time to fraud investigations. She is, I'm hesitant to use the word overwhelmed, but she's overwhelmed. The work is there for a second body, which we are in the process of moving towards. And I anticipate I'll have an update for the board by our next meeting to provide her much needed relief in her role, as well as providing an additional investigator to that unit. So stay tuned for that. Overall, on the property crime calls for service year to date, as well as this quarter, a noticeable decrease, which is always good. I did make a note on page 3 of 8 under the breach of probation conditions. We are seeing year to date, they have almost doubled. Reason being is there's just seems to be, and again, this is not unique to our community. There just seems to be a general disregard for conditions that are placed on by the courts, like which I don't think we ever really saw in the past, where if you were charged with a crime and you were on probation and, hey, you have to abide by these conditions, you pretty much stuck. I mean, you would always have people that would violate them. That's why probation officers exist. But for the most part, I do seem to see there just seems to be a general disregard for conditions that are placed on individuals by the courts. And it is certainly keeping us occupied. Numbers relatively consistent this quarter, as well as year to date. On the moving forward to page 4 of 8 at the top, I will refer to the drug possession and the drugs, which covers the trafficking. And I have a little in my greatest hits section of my report where we talk about a significant grow-op that was stopped here in our community. Overall, the drug occurrences, as we know, continue to plague our community. We are actively engaging in investigations on numerous levels, both at the street level, as well as the mid-level dealers, as well as the higher up, where these drugs are actually coming into our community from. I'll talk about that more after as well. But But I do want to specifically mention that we are conducting interviews tomorrow for 2 additional street crime members well, I'm not going to say they're going to solve the drug problem, but they're certainly do their best to mitigate the issues in the community. So that is happening tomorrow. We have 5 candidates for 2 spots, and I'm very confident we'll have some successful members. That will be tomorrow, but the issues with our drug occurrences are ongoing. We are aware of multiple issues in our community, and we are doing our best to mitigate them. On the mental health side, that continues. Numbers relatively consistent as far as year to date. A decrease this quarter, but I would like to just remind the board that year to date, the numbers are staying consistent. I hope that we see a bit of a peak where we will start going. I'm hoping this year that we'll start to see a decline. I'm trying to be positive. We will see what the numbers produce, but certainly our MCERT officers remain engaged with our communities. They remain engaged with our prolific callers, as well as our ongoing calls for service. On the operational side, I made a note, 2 significant calls or categories that continue to cause concern for us are suspicious persons, which have significantly increased 166 year to date last year versus 228. So that's a significant increase. Again, I'm hesitant to ever tell someone not to call the police if they feel that there's a suspicious person. We're all aware of the current struggles our community is facing. There's probably many incidents where people that have never called the police are now calling the police to report issues in and around their homes that would get classified as suspicious persons. And I believe that is what is attributing the spike in that category. In addition to that, the noise complaints I have flagged here as well as 91 last year versus 134. Again, that's a significant cost to the community. I don't know if we will see it here. I make mention of Hamilton Police that have decided police, unless there is a public safety issue, we will not be responding to noise complaints anymore. They've made that, the chief has made that the operational decision. We are not there yet, and I'm certainly not suggesting that the OPP is going that route, but that is a decision that the city of Hamilton made. Hey, if somebody's playing their drums at 2 a.m, you will just have to wait for bylaw to come, or yeah, we're not going for noise complaints. Again, that's a decision that municipality made, but the fact that they have made that decision, I would not be shocked if I saw other municipalities follow suit. When I talk about we have to be strategic with our officers, and I would much rather see them trying to pull an impaired driver off the road than responding to a noise complaint at 2 a.m. That's just my personal opinion. As it stands right now, we are still responding to noise complaints, and we are still billing municipalities for that call for service. Yeah. On the page 6 of 8, about midway down the neighbor disputes, I am pleased to report that year to date, those are in a significant decline, which is great. Again, those are still, I'm going to say, remnants of our COVID days where people were just not getting along with neighbors, or they didn't understand that, you know, the neighbor does this because I'm at work all day and all of a sudden it's bothering me. And so that is self-regulating, if you will. but we'll see how the end of the year shapes up. But certainly 140 last year versus 108, we are significantly on track to see a reduction in that. Assist public, again, 173 last year versus 249 year to date. I think those are a lot of calls for service where people are asking for information about ongoing issues in our community that are being classified as assisting the public. Jumping forward to operational 2, again, the 911 calls, which we have always been working on. Very slight uptick this quarter. However, year to date, a significant decrease, 246 versus 208. And these are 911 hangups where I won't repeat the protocol that was put in place by our new commissioner as far as what we were going to respond to when it comes to pocket dials and such, but those are reducing. We are just on the false alarm accidental trip. Yes, I know there's only one call, but I do want to, false alarm accidental trip, false alarm others. We have put out just because I do know that the city is sometimes questioned because of the policy that is in place. I guess it would be a bylaw, apologies, as far as billing businesses after strike 3. We put out an internal message just that if we do respond to a business at 2 a.m, if it was an actual attempted break and enter, that it gets qualified, because if the alarm did its job, then there shouldn't be a bill. But if it's a legitimate false alarm, that needs to be captured accurately in our clearing information. A, did the officers attend? B, did a key holder attend? Sometimes that information is lacking. So during this quarter, we did remessage that to all, because we do have some newer officers to the detachment, just to make sure that they are in fact capturing. Okay, yeah, it's not just another false alarm there at Bonanza, 2 a.m, no big deal. There is some diligence on the officer's part. You don't just say, that's a false alarm. Okay, what steps did you take? Did anybody come? Was it a legitimate false alarm, or did something set this off? When in fact it's not. It's an attempt to break and enter, and not, or an insecure premise and not an actual false alarm. So just clarifying that for the members. Overall year to date, moving down to the traffic side. 127 last year this time versus 90 this year. So I'm very happy to say that, yeah, it's less. I will remind everyone we did have a very forgiving winter as far as snow. So that I think accounts year to date why the numbers, because if you compare the quarter 50 last year versus 46, that is still very consistent for the quarter. But over the winter, I think we did pretty good. That was the billing piece for the mandatory reporting. As far as public complaints, I'm very pleased to report that, again, no complaints. You want to put that in the minutes? Detachment commander knocked on wood. For the secondary employment, there have been no requests for secondary employment submitted this quarter either. I did want to include a couple of our greatest hits over the course of the quarter. Oh, you know what? Let me jump to I ran the numbers mid-year to see where we were at for our foot patrol. This is strictly for the downtown core. Mid-year last year, we were at 140.75 hours of foot patrol in the downtown core. We are very, very close. We are at 136.75, so 4 hours off. But I would like to see, my goal was to break 300. That's my absolute goal. We came close 2 years ago. Anyway, that's my target for this year. So the numbers as far as police visibility in the downtown on foot, consistent with last year. I did bring a couple of news releases from this quarter that I wanted to. I'm sure everybody on the board saw it, but I will bring it up again for the purpose of the minutes. We executed a search warrant on Boundary Road at a what would you call that facility? It was like a licensed grow up. Yeah, commercial business. However, they had far exceeded what they were allotted, and we had information on that, and that was in partnership with the city, the bylaw, and the fire department, and there were individuals that were taken into custody. Again, based on the individuals and their countries of origin, it would suggest that this was Asian organized crime. However, that still remains under investigation, but there were 2 individuals charged with cultivation and possession for the purpose. 2 significant traffic stops and drug investigations. One specific to the city, where our street crime unit at an address that we have corresponded about, where there were several individuals charged with drug offenses as well as weapons offenses. A second incident, which again, and it occurred did not originate in our community. It was an incident that started on Highway 17 in Renfrew's area, where a firearm was observed inside a moving motor vehicle, and our officers ended up locating the vehicle in our municipality. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. However, there was 2 individuals from Quebec, 2 individuals from Ottawa, 1 from Quebec, that were charged with numerous drug offenses. They were drug dealers, and because this is before the courts, they are alleged drug dealers, and they allegedly were in possession of a firearm. So the reason I draw that one out for the purpose of the minutes is a cautionary message that I sent out to our detachment in its entirety, not just the city, is that in recent months we are seeing, for whatever reason, an increase in occurrences involving handguns, which we never really saw in the past. Like I say that with 29 years of policing under my belt, that was always traditionally in Canada, and certainly in every community that I've policed, and I've policed a lot of them, not a very common thing. And now you've got, young adults, I'll say, with handguns at a fairly, what I'll call, an alarming frequency. And I don't know if that's just the trend or if that's just stuff that's coming in from the city. Again, these individuals with the firearms they're not from our community, but they are bringing firearms into our community. And we had the incident last year. So this is something that is certainly on our radar. It is certainly a public safety issue that we take very seriously. And it is certainly something that we will continue to do our best to mitigate. On the traffic side, we had some very successful. We had a May 2 long weekend, safe boating week, July 1st long weekend. We had our local traffic campaigns, which were all very successful. We continue to stay engaged with those. We did a tractor trailer safety blitz, and we're doing that in conjunction with both Killaloe and with the Renfrew Detachment, where we're targeting those locations, targeting what I would call like at-risk tractor trailers, making sure wheels are not about to fall off or everything is in proper working order. Those continue on a quarterly basis with our neighboring detachments. The big news that is coming down the pipe, and it is going to occur in September. No, it's not the golden helmets. Well, that is big news. But there was a decision made at the commissioner's level that Upper Ottawa Valley will be incorporating Keeloo Detachment into the fold. So Keeloo Detachment has traditionally been a standalone OPP detachment. They are going to be with the upcoming retirement of their detachment commander. The OPP has decided that instead of being a standalone, they will fall under the umbrella of Upper Ottawa Valley, where I will be the detachment commander of Keeloo as well. They will still have an operations manager, which is the staff sergeant rank, reporting there. However, the overall command of Keeloo Detachment, which is also encompasses the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, will fall under the jurisdiction of Upper Ottawa Valley, which is a significant change. It's going to involve outward facing from the community side. They won't see a change. It'll be business as usual. Instead of dealing with a detachment commander when they go to speak to the staff sergeant, they will be dealing with an operations manager. If there's something that requires the detachment commander's attention, then I would go down. Internally, the OPP is always looking for efficiencies, different ways of doing things better, more efficient. And this was a decision that was, I will say, a decade in the making. I know this was looked at on 2 separate occasions, where it's presented, and for multiple reasons, it did not move ahead. At this point in time, they decided that the timing was right, that they wanted to move this forward, and it was presented to certain individuals within the ministry, and they approved it as well. And that is going to move forward in September. Exact date to be determined. But that is the biggest news out of the Upper Ottawa Valley. And certainly my position from here on in is certainly, I've always been, as Des maybe not, but certainly from the other boards, I've always been very big on the communication piece. And I did not want, so I communicated this to the Keeloo Detachment in June. And that was it was not going to happen, but I insisted on it because I did not want, this is a significant change for a lot of individuals. Staff Sergeant Miller, for one, the changing internally, the reporting structure, the dynamics of that, what that's going to look like. There's a lot of value in letting people have time to digest that, not in the end of August. Oh, by the way, September, Keeloo is not standalone. You're part of Upper Ottawa Valley. That's not going to fly. So I insisted that the message go out in June to give lots of people, well, to give everybody lots of soak time, if you will, to digest that, ask their questions. What's that going to look like? Do I have to move? No. Business as usual. You will report to Keeloo. You will do your call. Is there a chance you will be called to come to Pembroke to do a call for service? Possibly. Is there a possibility that a Pembroke officer will be called to Algonquin Park to do a car moose? Possibly. I liken it to when the UOV detachment amalgamated with the city, when that occurred. There was, it was obviously the unknown. It was, you had a community, 2 different communities, a long-established police service that was disbanded and absorbed by the OPP. Lots of unknowns on both sides. I'm sure there was Pembroke officers saying, well, I'm not going to Head Clare or Mariah to do a call for service. And there was, I guarantee you, without even having worked here at the time, there would have been Petawawa officers or UV officers that said, well, I'm not going downtown Pembroke and deal with that BS. No way. At the end of the day, it's one big detachment now. You will pick up your car at your assigned location, Pembroke, Petawawa, Keeloo, Whitney. Your platoon will have, we're thinking 3 sergeants now. Your sergeant will determine your work location. And if there's an emergency, as there are many times, the sergeants will allocate the resources as they need. But that is coming down the pipes. I do need the board to be aware of that. Nothing, again, outwardly here is going to change, other than will there be one day a Kilo officer here working? Quite possibly. Will there be one day a Pembroke officer going to Kilo to help out? Possibly. The good news is, with this amalgamation, we have been bumped up on the priorities as far as getting additional resources, be it bodies, be it additional support personnel. So that's a good thing.
Questions for the inspector?
That's all I got.
Pat?
I have about 3, so should I give them all?
In order of
Go for it.
importance, ma'am.
Yes. Well, in order of importance, I would say the last one.
Yes.
So in light of this extra responsibility that
Yes.
has been awarded you, and in light of the changes that have just taken place in regarding to the boards, that is going to give you a lot of extra work. And I'm wondering, I mean, when it comes to each board, you're going to have to prepare an annual report for us and then the Killaloe board. I'm not sure what type of board they're part of.
They
but-
have a board,
Mhm.
and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan will have their own established board.
Wow.
Yeah, so
So you
will
have to
will
answer
it be
the
some additional meetings for me every year? Yes. Will it be an increased workload for me? Yes, it will. Will I have additional staff to help with that? Yes, I will.
Okay. That was always my concern. And when we started looking at the changes at the board level, we were wondering, oh my goodness, like the administration is really going to increase. So that's why when I heard this, and I heard it last night, I thought, wow, that's 3.
What?
So technically that's 3 boards you're going to have to be
4,
reporting
5.
to, 4 or 5 that you're going to have to report to, do an annual report separately. Also, sometimes the statistics, well, we used to get the statistics that it included Upper Ottawa Valley entirely. So, but those will be broken down now separate. Okay. Anyway, well, congratulations, I guess, if that's what you want. But I mean, that's what you
That's
got.
what the commissioner wants. so
Exactly.
That's what I want.
So, yeah, so I guess that was my query on that one. Okay, so now we'll go to the report itself.
And just to give an add-on to that, with the addition of the additional staff sergeant operations manager, what I'm anticipating is how we have one staff sergeant now who's in charge of all of Upper Ottawa Valley, Marianne, who is currently supporting Killaloe Detachment. With the addition of 2 more staff sergeants, what I'm anticipating, my vision for this is 1 staff sergeant dedicated exclusively to the city, 1 staff sergeant dedicated exclusively to Killaloe, and the final staff sergeant, the remainder, Petawawa and other. But that is just by the needs, the calls for service. In my opinion, and having enough experience here now, I think the city deserves to have a dedicated staff sergeant, and that is my plan operationally. I will still be the detachment commander, but there will be a full-time operations manager focusing exclusively on city issues.
Thank you. So when it comes to the statutes and acts, so youth, criminal, mental health, any incidents related.
Which page are we on, ma'am? Sorry.
I'm on page 4 of 6, or 4 of 8, sorry, in the report.
Yes.
So when it comes to anything to do with the mental health,
Yes.
the MESA program that's now in place, does that seem to be improving the environment for you when you get these types of calls or calls for assistance?
Did everybody get an opportunity to see the CBC article?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I said there, and I meant it, I spoke from the heart. I read that. I believe in that program. I think it will transform the way things are. I truly believe in it. I'm going to say that it's still in its infancy. However, I'm already aware of an individual that has engaged with them and has progressed. The key piece being there, individuals have to want this. They have to want this. And I'm hesitant to use the word, this is going to be a poster child, but this individual has already said, has read this literature, says, you know what, I want help. Step number one, I want help. Will there be setbacks? Of course there will be. I want help and is looking to get out. Is a community member here. And they talked about getting individuals out of the environment that they're in. So they have moved this individual, they've set him up like the MESA program is supposed to do with housing in a neighboring community, secured him employment. So he had to get out of this element where they keep, drawing you back in like, oh, hey, there's Michael. Hey, come on, let's go party. And, they get sucked back into that endless void, right? He at least had enough self-awareness to say, I need help. I need to get out of this environment. They have set him up with accommodations in a neighboring community. So he's out of that element that he's familiar with. Hang on a second. I'll qualify that. They are trying to secure him employment. I might have got ahead of myself. He is not employed yet. He is trying to work towards getting a job. They're setting that up. They're working with him, Ontario Works, getting him set up with employment where he can now contribute, get something back, see the value of work, get a steady paycheck. And if that's, and and I hate to repeat myself, but if it helps one person, then it's a success, right? If it gets one person off of our street, then it's a success. I think that's just the beginning.
Now, when you mentioned about the noise complaint in some municipalities, at least at Hamilton, doesn't go to them.
They do not.
Shortly after that, we said there was a decrease in neighbor disputes. So I would just be wary of that. I don't know what the dollar value is for that noise complaint category there. And if there was some way you could get us
to quantify it
on 509 hours, that would be great. You don't have to do it right now, but I guess that's what's important when we're making decisions is, if we don't answer noise complaints, is it going to be a lot more expensive than to go and report because the neighbor now punched the other guy out because he wouldn't put his drums away. So that number would probably go up. In this report, it went down. So that's the give and take, right?
That is the give and take.
But if somehow we could have a dollar value on these, that might just be a real eye opener on making.
Can you put that as an action item for myself, please? Thank you.
Okay, and I think oh yes, the alarms. So the false alarms indicated that the city has a bylaw or something.
Yes.
Anyway, when it comes to fire alarms, we do have a system where they are allowed so many strikes. So if the college or a business has a fire alarm, a faulty fire alarm that keeps going off, we give them 3 chances, and after that, they do get a fine.
Yes.
And so if that's what you're talking about here,
the false alarms, not fire alarms.
it's a call for 911, right? Because their business.
There's
alarm
like a, I think it comes in as a break-in alarm or a motion alarm.
Okay.
Within the business. We have had instances where we will go 10, 20 times to a business because there's a rat or dust falling that sets off the alarms, and we respond, no, false alarm again, false alarm again. And again, those are billable calls for service for the municipality. So somebody, and I have to say, when I went to Kempville at the beginning of the year for 6 months, those municipalities did not have that bylaw in place. And there were some, doing my diligence, and I'm looking at like, we're responding like an awful lot. And I said, have you ever thought about, not that I'm telling you how to run your municipality, but there are other municipalities, for example, where I come from, Pembroke, that they have a 3 strikes and now you have to pay a bill if you are not bothering to check your alarm. Which again, in turn, I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence when officers are responding to this. Well, was it actually a false alarm? Because what I don't want is, or what I would not want to see is businesses, and every business is struggling, to unnecessarily have to pay whatever the fine is. But it's significant enough that they are contesting these tickets. And rightly so, if it was truly not a false alarm. If they say, no, somebody's trying to break in, that's not a false alarm. That is the alarm doing its job.
So just clarify, do you give them a ticket when they've called you?
That's the
Because I'm getting a mixed signal here. Right now, the fire department does issue a fine. You don't.
We report back on a monthly basis to our municipalities on false alarms. One of our administrators does
Okay.
that. And if we respond to a residence or a business multiple times, then the city reviews that. Sorry, well, I mean, I don't know how the city looks at it, but from my understanding is the city reviews it.
Mhm.
And if we responded more than 3 times per annum, then there is a bylaw.
Okay, because I was not aware of that as a city councillor. So maybe we should, yeah.
So, yes, and so I can think of going back. I have no doubt that it's still going on, but I can recall Constable Etier working with the former clerk and looking at data and so forth and figuring out numbers and so forth. So I recall it happening, but again, it wasn't a board, like it wasn't something I had to be aware of all the time or anything like that. So I just knew that they were doing it. Dean.
Just to Pat, I can actually verify that the city does send out a letter saying you've had such and such amounts of alarms and you owe us this amount of money by such and such a date. So, I've seen one. Maybe
I mean, it's not a common thing to my knowledge. The last one I recall was a residence in the city, in fact, that he had a cat that was repeatedly setting off the alarm that we were responding to multiple times, and there was a citation eventually issued as a result of that.
Any other questions for the inspector? Des?
I have 2. My first question, you're talking about with the amalgamation of Killaloe into the Upper Ottawa Valley. Will that change the billing? Like, should we see, like, will there be an increase in the billing or will our billing stay the same?
Well, my hope is that the billing always goes down.
Will go down,
That's
yeah.
my number one job, right? Is always to try to reduce these calls for service. Sorry, that's my number 2 job. Public safety is my number 1 job.
Fair
Number
enough.
2 is the money, right?
Yeah.
No, the billing doesn't change at all.
Okay.
There will be correspondence coming out to all the municipalities in the next, I'm going to say 2 weeks from Municipal Policing Bureau as a result of the OPPA, Ontario Provincial Police Association, settling a contract with our officers. They have been without a contract since January 1st, 2023. So that has just been settled yesterday. So there will be correspondence coming out just in regards to costs. That is going to change, but that's as a result of a contract,
Not the
nothing to do
billing.
with the amalgamation.
Okay. And then my second question is, you said that with the amalgamation, that bumps us up in priority for new members. When
Yes.
do we know when we can expect those new members and how that distribution might
Yes.
potentially look?
Soon.
Okay.
I don't have an answer, sir. I'm
Okay.
sorry. And that in itself is a work in progress over the course. There's multiple departments working on this over the course of the summer. The implementation date is anticipated for September, early September. Things that have to change, for example, mapping, zones have to be changed. Well, sorry, zones down there have to be changed. The reporting dynamics, we know what it's going to look like, but we have an idea of what that's going to look like. For example, we were initially told we were only going to have 2 staff sergeants, but then they said, no, that threshold makes it, supports 3 staff sergeants, which is great because that's less work for me then. So that is, what that looks like. We have the staffing model that was initially set up for Upper Ottawa Valley that said we're supposed to have this many officers that are coming, which we were starting to get. We had the first 10%, 15% rolled out this year. Well, now we're blending another detachment that had their own staffing issues. So what does that new blend of officers look like? That is still stuff that's going to get worked out over the course of the summer. So to say, we also have civilian supports here in the detachments, which is it's called the Dock Detachment Operations Clerks. What we don't want is for Kilu Detachment to feel like, well, UOB is taking over, we're taking everything and giving them nothing. They're very much going to be a part of the greater Upper Ottawa Valley Detachment, so much so that they are going to be provided additional support staff through special constables as well as detachment operations clerks. So that's all stuff that has to be not only on the uniform side, but also on the civilian side, that has to be reviewed.
Okay.
Auxiliaries, what do they have? They don't believe they even have an auxiliary program, but is there an opportunity for our auxiliary program to expand to include Kilu? That's a conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Christine?
Thank you. Just a curiosity when you spoke of the breach, the big increase in breach of conditions and perhaps being attributed to disregard. Is there anything within the age demographics that would point to certain age groups, or is it across the board?
I don't think
When
it's
we get
across the
the-
board. I want to say thank you for your question.
Yes.
I think my personal opinion, and my colleagues may agree with, I think it's very much a societal issue now, where, and not just for probation officers, for contempt for the law itself, I think has really been degraded, a general disregard to our fellow human beings. And we're seeing it every day in the media. We're seeing it south of the border as well. And I think it's just this moment in time, unfortunately. I'm hoping that things will change for the better, but I think that is just a general, and again, that's not unique to this community. That is everywhere.
So
Everywhere.
is this something that might be addressed or is being looked at up the chain? What can the individual police forces do? What can we as boards do?
What can we as a community do?
Yeah, exactly.
Small things. I think the lack of respect for others, I dare say, starts in the home. Not everybody has the advantage of having a stable structure at home. We're doing the talking about community outreach. We one of the things I wanted to do, which we were successful, was getting back into the schools, starting with what we used to do was getting into the schools and meeting kids. And we had, again, it was a work in progress, but again, as a whole, all the school board says, we don't want police in here anymore, which, okay, we have to respect their decision, but that was a long time coming. And that only happened in May of this year. That allowed us to go back in September, to go back to schools in a positive manner, as opposed to every time they see a cruiser there, oh, somebody's in trouble, somebody's getting arrested. Like, no, hey, Staff Sergeant Dare is there to play basketball and do her slam dunks in the gymnasium. Let's have a positive conversation about the police being there as opposed to, oh, somebody's in trouble. The punishers are here. I was very pleased to see that we are again doing our cops and fishing derby in August, which is great. We actually had to cap the number because it was so much interest in it, which is great, but it was becoming unmanageable. But that is going ahead again, August 10th. Does that sound right?
10th, yeah.
So, going back to getting the youth to see us as, as allies as opposed to enemies. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Thank you.
You had another question?
Yeah, I was going to pipe in on that one a little bit, but I believe that the judicial system is, I think it may be time that they review some of their bail policies. And I think that's part of the issue, is that these individuals know the judicial system in and out. And they know that if they get arrested, they're going to go in, they might appear the next day or the day after in court, and they're going to be out. And the unfortunate part is, I think a large percentage of these, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they're suffering from addiction, as soon as they're out, they're doing the same thing. So they're going to be doing the same thing, and you're going to be arresting them a week later, same thing, on breach. So a lot of that is the issue, and they're not afraid to get arrested, and they're going to go in and they're going to do the same thing and the same thing. And that's why you see these individuals on the reports coming through Facebook, breach, 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 breach. And I think it is cyclical, and it depends, you're right, on young individuals maybe that were brought up with less respect for the law or less fear. I mean, it's awful to say fear of the law, but I don't know about you, but if I see a cruiser going by right away, I don't know. I'm not even doing anything wrong, but I'm, and it's just the way I am. And I think a lot of individuals, it's respect for the law, and that's missing. And I think some of it is mental health. Some of it is just disregard for the law. But I think until the judicial system recognizes that, separates addiction as a whole new thing. You've arrested someone for an addiction-related crime, which is the majority of 5,000 under.
Yeah.
You should keep them in and make sure they're going to get the help. Don't release them. They're just going to do the same thing. And that is what is causing a lot of the social problems in Pembroke right now. So it's the judicial system. And
in many communities.
Pardon? In many communities, it is the judicial system.
In many communities.
So until, I don't know if a resolution from boards helps, but it's the communities that are suffering. And the officers are frustrated because you're picking up the same people time and time again. You know them on a first name basis, basically. So anyway, that's just information. And I believe that that is the main issue here.
So I only have one question for you then. So
Yes,
you mentioned about the hiring process in respect to 2 additional street crime officers. And what I'm curious about, and it builds upon what Des was asking about, is that a lateral, I'll phrase it that way, is that a lateral hiring process, meaning one day I'm an officer doing whatever, and now I'm applying for this, and if I'm successful, I'm a successful candidate of one of the 2. Now I'm a street crime officer, in which case now we're still not up any in terms of complement. You've changed what their role is, though. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it lateral, or is it 2 additional officers would be hired to fill that mandate?
No, that is internal within the Upper Ottawa Valley Detachment. It is not net new officers coming in.
Just trying to trying to be on the same page. Okay. Any other questions for the inspector? Seeing none, thank you for all of your reports on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.
So under new business, we've already addressed 9A. It brings us to 9B. And so basically it's just an oral report that I wanted to give you, is that, as I said earlier, we have 7 zones. One of the zones, each zone is unique. You might not think that Pembroke has unique areas, but different areas got unique situations. That zone is the Elizabeth Street zone. It's got its own set of issues and concerns. So I met the individuals there together with whoever wanted to in that zone come forward, together with the deputy mayor, as well as Steve Halpenny, who's instrumental in terms of the Community Watch program. There are some challenges there. Some of them, some of the issues raised is policing issues, which then I certainly touch base with the inspector. A lot of the issues there, however, are more landlord, particularly regarding the one building, are landlord tenant and just discontent with the Ontario legislation. And that's just a whole process of trying to educate these individuals that there's laws that certainly the municipality doesn't have, create, that it's provincial legislation. And so while we're not turning a blind eye to it, I can say that there was action items arising out of the last meeting with a commitment to having yet another meeting in October. Usually we only have yearly meetings with the Elizabeth Street zone, but it looks like greater attention is required to try and deal with that. And we're also working then together with the county of Renfrew, because with the one particular building in that zone, there's individuals outside of this one building, so that everyone understands that. But in that particular building is a county of Renfrew building, which just adds yet another layer of issues to address. So long story short, I just wanted to bring it forward that the Community Watch program, in my opinion, is working. Mr. Halpenny certainly has some action items that he's going to draw out of there. And that's just one particular zone that's requiring some attention. And yet there's other zones that I guess there's, well, I won't even say where it is, but there's one particular zone that seemingly the individual that is the captain says that there's no issues at all, other than she notices that her neighborhood is changing over the years. She said it used to be more seniors and now it's younger families, which didn't take that was a bad thing, but she just noted that it had changed and she is more elderly. So some zones requiring seemingly no attention or very little attention, other than the individuals doing what they need to do, on boots on the ground. They're observing and doing what they need to do and contacting us if required. But outside of that, they seemingly just move along and live their lives and that sort of thing. But other zones, not so lucky, and we end up addressing different issues. So that's the report on that. Unless you got questions, I just wanted to let the board know that that's that interaction with that.
What was the date again? Community Watch.
So I can get you that. I know it's October. I don't recall the exact date, but I can get you that for sure.
Thank you.
I can get you the next one, not only for overall, but also Elizabeth Street. Okay, brings us to Golden Helmets Street closure, and there's a report from Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this brief. So on Saturday, September 21st, the Golden Helmets Precision Motorcycle Team plans to perform in Pembroke, which is a very big deal. We're very excited that they've chosen Pembroke. As you know, there is I'm still getting used to the acronyms, sorry. The Association of Police Services Board Zone 2 meeting is set to also be in Pembroke on September 19th and 20th. So the Golden Helmets demonstration on the 21st is a wonderful complement to this meeting. It's an engaging event that's open to the public and is very unique in its offerings. And that said, it does require the street closure It requires a street closure for Pembroke Street West, the entire street, parking's in driving included. So with that comes some expense of up to $2,500. Staff has been liaising with the OPP, and the equipment services that will need to be rendered to do so is anticipated at up to $2,500. That being said, in order to bring this to council for consideration to grant the street closure, it was recommended that we bring this to the Police Services Board, understanding that the cost could be derived from the budget to offset the event costs from the city and provide an event that will be a public draw, economic driver perhaps, and something very unique that Pembroke can offer. Happy to answer any questions.
Inspector, did you want to dovetail in terms of the report? Because it's certainly been a brainchild of yours, and thank you for your work on it as well.
Well, thank you. And I think it is a bit of a coup for the city. The Golden Helmets, as I learned, are only doing 2 shows in 2024, and we are one of them. So that is a big deal for us to gather this. So on the economic side of it, they will be at the hotel here locally the night before. Although not the purpose of the show, but my anticipation is this will gather a lot of people into the downtown core, and there will be economic spin-offs for the municipality, which is fantastic. Certainly, I fully understand that there will be costs associated that will be borne by the city as a result of this. We will certainly be doing our part as far as ensuring that there will be adequate additional officers at no cost to the municipality to support this event through our own officers as well as our auxiliary members, which we are getting 2 brand new ones. They graduate mid-August. So what a great first event for them to attend in the community. Yeah, that was all I had.
Questions or comments for either of them? Seeing none, I guess there's 2 different items. One is the expenditure of the funds to offset the cost from operations out of our budget. But then I would think that the second thing, perhaps maybe we make a recommendation to council so that when it comes forward to there, that we do want the street closure to allow this to happen, sort of like what Mike talks about in terms of the PBIA having support for, hey, council, you should consider this. So is anyone prepared to do that? So Christine, yes?
I'll make the motion that the services board for the cost, the additional cost rather than operations, that we request to city council.
Okay, and is there a seconder? Okay, Mike, those in favor? That is carried. Good stuff. Next item is correspondence. So as happens, different correspondence from time to time comes forward. And Madam Clerk has a report, but you'll see the Deputy Mayor brought forward something in terms of a concern. And you'll see in the report that certainly there's an ongoing investigation. And so perhaps it's just to bring it to your attention, but not really for anything really to happen other than to note that there is an ongoing investigation. And I understand even on the operations side that I looped in operations in addition to OPP, and it's just for the awareness of the board. Okay. So having said all of that, next item is next meeting. So as to try and seemingly meeting in the afternoon works for everyone, which is good. It's good from the staff perspective as well. So that, because I know some of our meetings used to go into the evening and whatnot in any event. So if we can, I don't know what the board wants to do in terms of whether a doodle poll or you've got some ideas in terms of next meeting dates, and then that'll conclude this particular meeting.
Mike? If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'd like to bring up our weekend in September, just a little push for that all the members get out and contact the people that we know that should be there. Our meeting dates in September received a lot of publicity from the Zone 2 in Belleville. They really pushed it for us. They're looking forward to coming up here. We have noted speaker, Dr. Gregory Brown, who'll be speaking Thursday night. I hope we have a good turnout for that. The next morning, Friday a.m., first off, we have Colonel Jason Gurney from CFB Petawawa. And then after that, we have the case officer from the Basil Barutsky homicide investigation speaking. So it should be an interesting weekend. Thank you.
Sorry for not,
Just to clarify then, so I'm just blocking it off on my calendar. So the actual meeting starts Thursday
Thursday night, it's gonna be a capital. The
night.
Thursday night. And it's sort of a, normally we only have a one-day meeting.
Mhm.
We're going back to this because we figured there's gonna be that many people coming in. from
Great.
out of the area.
Great.
So this person, he's a professor from Carleton University, former police officer, if I'm not mistaken. Lots of credentials. And he's quite a speaker, so we're looking forward to having him. It's gonna be like a fireside chat on
Nice.
his subjects. It's gonna be very informal. The
Okay.
next day is gonna be all business.
All day.
Yeah, like
Okay.
It won't be all day. We told like typically 1:30 or so. We'll be over. we
And then
start at
Saturday
9,
is the golden helmets.
yeah, Friday
Perfect.
morning, and then that gives us a break until we start. There'll be help needed, I think, also from us, inspector, when it comes down to the organizing. Will you need some members? Okay.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, Des, you said you'd help too.
Great.
For sure.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to as many people from out of town, from out of our area that we can get to and say, you know, you're invited to this thing. And of course, I don't have to respond to Lisa Darling. Everybody will get an email from it to make sure that we know how many are going to be there so we can provide for sandwiches and meals and that.
Mhm. Good. Great. Okay. Thank you.
okay, thank you. And so on the issue of the next meeting date, do you want Madam Clerk to send out a doodle poll, or do you got some ideas in terms of what you want to do? Okay, so if we can do doodle poll, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. I have Christine, seconded by Des. Those in favor, we are carried, we are adjourned.